One, go. What is up, Bullish Nation? Welcome to another episode, post game show of the Bullish Podcast. We got Josh on another familiar outcome for us. The Bulls competitive with a good team in the first half, then not as competitive as they should or need to be in the second half. Fall to the Celtics 111-104. Josh, how's it going, man?
I'm doing good, man. I'm ready to discuss this Bulls game. We have a lot of positives to take away from it, I'm sure.
There are a lot of positives, there are some negatives, and there's a lot of in betweens as well. Before the start of the game, I asked you to pick one thing and watch it. Did you do it? No, you didn't.
No,
You did not. You did not do it.
no.
All right, it's fine. I wanted to add like a different thing to this, so I did it at least. Good thing I did my homework. I just picked Wendell Carter overall. I just wanted to keep it
Okay.
broad, keep it to one player, and then just map kind of what they're doing possession to possession. It was an interesting exercise, more so for the first half, where Wendell was a lot more involved. And by involved, I mean not just shooting or passing or rebounding, but he's constantly setting screens, whether it's on ball with Zach Levine or Saturansky, running that pick and roll game, or he's being used in off-ball screens a lot to the weak, like for the weak side corner guy to come up, take the Wendell screen and pop up to the wing to get the ball. Generally, it's either Sato or Levine whoever doesn't have the ball. Rarely did Wendell kind of chill in the dunker spot or stretch out to the corner, which was interesting. He's constantly where other people are. There were a couple possessions where he set up the pick and roll after he didn't get the ball and it got swung to the other side. Then he stretched out to the corner, which was interesting. And I just want to see how Wendell's being used right now, because we always talk about how he's not being used as much as we'd like in terms of on ball. But I feel like we should have an understanding if what he's doing right now isn't effective. I thought he was really effective, and I was talking about this in the halftime show. 4:27 left is when he got subbed out. Bulls were up 21-13. And then at the end of the quarter, so in 4.5 minutes, they were down 30-28. So that's a what? 20 no, a 17-8 run just when Wendell came out, and that corresponded with Cantor and Gafford going at it. And Cantor got the best of Gafford in the second half too, so that kind of repeated itself. Which, I mean, it was pretty predictable after watching it in the first half, but it just happened again. Anyway, what did you think about Wendell's performance and how he's going? Because, or if there's anything else that stuck out to you that you want to talk about.
Yes, you pretty much summed up how Wendell was offensively tonight. He did his 3 for 9 from the field, over 2 from the three. And one thing I had noticed just after his last couple of games that the Bulls want him to shoot more. But his offense is still quite flawed in terms of being a consistent guy offensively. It's not like he's not taking his shot because he doesn't want to. It's actually because it's not there consistently yet. Missed a few mid-range jump shots, missed his threes, which is fine. Obviously, I really want him to take those, but his offensive game's a lot more flawed than the Bulls fan base seem to believe. I think he could be a little bit more useful if he was a bit better at finishing around the rim, but that will come when he gets that touch over time. But rebounding the ball was just a beast as usual. Defended the paint really nicely, had a few blocks, 3 steals as well, and he was pretty active all night, I noticed too, with Wendell.
Comparing him to Lowry, he is a little bit more slow-footed, especially on offense. There's his movements are very smart and calculated, but it's not very quick. He's not moving a ton on offense, and not that you just want Wendell Carter moving everywhere. It's just like it is elaborate, and the smarts do kind of help him quite a bit. And then on the defensive end, same thing. Super smart, always in the right place. He'll come help on a Gordon Hayward drive, and then know the pass is going, so drop back right at the moment he needs to get the block on Tice. He did that once, and then the ball was kind of loose, and he was chasing it. The Celtics got it, then he recovered real quick back to Tice in the first half again on the defensive end. And if you haven't noticed already, I'm talking about the first half a lot, because in the second half it kind of stopped, and the offensive stagnation. This might be one more thing. I'm gonna start watching for it a little bit more because I noticed it here. Wendell kind of stopped being as involved in the motion. Like he didn't set as many off-ball screens. He didn't set as many on-ball screens. It was just less involvement of Wendell Carter within the offense, whether that be passing or shooting or whatever. And that's something I think that is something to keep an eye on. 11 points, 14 boards for Wendell, and some of those boards were just monstrous. 3 steals, 2 blocks. Like, he played a really good game today. He didn't really affect it on the offensive end as much, but everything else he played great. And then the other story of the night, Zach LaVine, 35 points, 11 for 21. The Bulls story, because there are some Celtic stories that I do want to get into here. But 35 points for LaVine, 11 of 21, like I said, 5 of 9 from the three-point line. 2 boards, 3 assists, and 4 steals. He was active in the passing lanes, and the Bulls in the second half. So, like, I don't know the steal number in the second half, but 15 steals total for the game, and they just got almost all. Like, it seemed like every possession that was successful for them in the second half was off transition. But what did you make of Zach LaVine's game?
Well, Zach just does what he always does, and that's putting the team on his back and aiming to lead them to wins. Obviously, he couldn't do it tonight, but another performance where he's required to take over. I think he had a really polished game. He was missing his free throws, which is something to keep an eye on too, because Zach LaVine's normally a really good free throw shooter. He shot 57% on 8 for 14 of the line tonight. He missed two in a row on a couple of trips, so that's something to keep an eye on too. You don't see it from LaVine quite often, but one thing I do want to point out, not just the 35 points, but 0 turnovers tonight, 2 to 3 assists. I know Zach always doesn't get too many assists, but 0 turnovers for him is pretty big considering he has the ball in his hand quite a lot. +2 on the night. I think he played a pretty good game. Just in that fourth quarter, I think he did knock down those shots. He maybe could have knocked down a couple more, maybe could have made a couple of better reads, but honestly, I think he played his part. The rest of the Bulls didn't really in that late game, but you know what you're going to get from Zach, and this was a better Zach LaVine performance tonight.
So one criticism that I do have of Zach, even in his good performances, he is always going to make the wrong decision at some point. And what I mean by that is, like, he'll have a couple good plays, or he'll drive to the rim, get a bucket, hit a nice open shot for 3, and then, like, once he hits that momentum 3, there is no doubt in my mind that he is going to dribble, step back 3, or turn around mid range. Like, it's so predictable. If Zach LaVine hits a momentum 3, he's going to take a bad shot. Like, he might make that bad shot, but I just don't understand why he doesn't try to run any sort of play. Like, it's not even that he took a bad shot. Like, if you end up with a bad shot, that's one thing, but when you know from the moment he gets the ball, from the moment he shoots and makes the shot prior, before the Bulls even get back on offense, I can tell you that the next possession is going to be a Zach LaVine ISO bad shot. Like, it's so predictable, and it's just something that I feel like you just need to tell him, like, look, that you don't need to heat check after one made shot. If you have 2 to 3, like, tough shot, or not tough shots, but like shots that you made, jump shots that you made that were like tough and like you're feeling yourself, all right, take the heat check. But don't take the heat check on the second shot. Try to, like, continue the momentum instead of, live or die by the Zach LaVine takeover, which is a big problem for other teams. Like, for example, the Rockets and Harden. The Bulls aren't on that level. Neither is Zach LaVine. I'm just saying, like, that's the main vulnerability of the Rockets, is that they're a one-man show for the most part. Similar with Dallas, even though they're so deep, I feel like, don't function the same way without Doncic. But anyway, those are elite players, and Zach LaVine, just, I don't know if he's there. But it's just consistently he's going to be getting to that bad shot, which I think is controllable. Anyway, where do you want to go next? Because, yeah, where do you want to go next?
Just quickly adding on what you said about LaVine, that was really noticeable when he came down and hit that really tough 3. The ball's got to stop, and then as soon as he got the ball, we knew he was taking another 3.
You know the exact play I'm talking about. You know the exact play I'm talking about. Sorry, I cut you off.
As soon as I saw Zach LaVine get the ball, I was like, okay, he's going to come off his Wendell screen. He's going to pull a 3 no matter who is in his face. But as you said about the heat check thing, I did like in the first quarter, he started 4 for 4, 3 for 3 from 3, and he knocked down his first couple, and then the third one was a heat check, which went in, and then he got to the rim for a layup, and I think he started really nicely, and it kind of set the tempo for the Bulls starters because when Zach's playing really well like that, the starters seem to feed on it. And one player also that we should get to as well, Larry Markkinen, who struggled pretty badly. Me and Christian were talking about this in the Bulls chat just earlier, and about how he was shooting a lot of threes tonight. He took 9 of his 12 field goals were threes. 15 points, 4 rebounds. I think he did struggle to some extent, especially putting the ball on the floor. He did have that couple. He did have a nice dunk, but also that injury too. He went down with the injury late in that game, and this will be interesting to see if there's any news on that in the next few days. He did not look too good.
Yeah, so on that injury, let's talk about that because it looked like to me when you roll your ankle and all your weight goes on it, that's really bad. It looked like a rolled ankle to me. I obviously don't know, but hopefully it's just a rolled ankle because that is not like a crazy serious injury. Also, he was falling. Yeah, Marcus Smart's body weight did roll it and kind of land on it, but Lowry was falling, so it was more Marcus Smart's weight falling on the ankle, and it was like the weight was more distributed too. So just the momentum of how they were moving and how he was falling and how the ankle got rolled, it looked like it wasn't that bad. Like out for, I don't think it was like out for a month bad. It might be like out for a week and a half bad, but he might also not be out at all. Like hopefully it's a minor ankle sprain because just the way they were falling and the momentum of it, it didn't seem like all the weight went onto the sprain motion. So hopefully that I'm right there and it's not that serious. What last thing with Zach, I did like that he got to the line 14 times. He was aggressive. He only made 8, which is uncharacteristic of him.
Mm.
But he did get to the rim quite a bit. He was forcing it. I'm always scared on like very aggressive drives with long steps to close.
Yep.
That's how Jonathan Isaac got hurt. And every time like Lowry with the drag step when it's kind of not in control, or Levine when he like does the long stride euro in transition, it just it's a very unorthodox motion most of the time, especially if the defense is playing well on it. Like if the defense is holding true, that's an injury risk for the offensive player every time. It always looks awkward no matter who does it. And with guys like Levine who are super athletic, it just scares me honestly. And Isaac did the same thing, and literally while he was doing it, I'm like, "Ooh, that doesn't look right." And then he got sprained, and it seems like that's gonna happen every time a player does that. So players, stop doing that. I don't know what the alternative is, but it seems like it's an injury risk.
It's scary, yeah. It is scary to see when Zach takes those long strides to the
Man,
basket. Um, I don't trust it, eh?
it's yeah, it's not. A note that I have because I was taking notes this game, very diligent game watcher today, but I really wanted the comeback and the win to happen. Obviously, because I like we're Bulls fans and we want the Bulls to win, but mostly because it was gonna be off the back of Sadaransky and Thaddeus Young, and then I knew I was gonna be talking to you after the game. It didn't happen all the way to a win, but you can't deny that those two were the catalysts for bringing us back in and making it close, even as it was.
Well, I think it was Sato too. He had a nice game. Shooting wise, he wasn't the best 4 for 11, but he did play a role in that comeback. Same with Chris Dunn. His defense was really good until Jason Tatum hit that really tough three, which I'm sure we'll get to. And Thad Young, he turned back the clock for a couple minutes before giving away that foul and then turning the ball over and then missing two or three threes in a row. 1 for 6 from three. But Thad did have a couple of really nice minutes when the Bulls went on that run when they were down, I think, as much as 16 at one point.
Three transition finishes in a row.
He took it coast to coast, and I was just thinking, I was like, how can nobody steal that? It was so slow. It was a slow break.
You're a
it was
hater, man. You're just a hater.
it was
Remember
not
how
fun.
good? Remember how good we thought that Young was gonna fit? That wasn't like us. That wasn't people pretending or dreaming of what Thaddeus Young could do. It was taking what he did with the Pacers and applying it.
Mm.
Sadaransky, we were all excited for the Sadaransky signing, not because we were delusional, but because he actually played really well for the Wizards, and then he had a great summer with the Czechoslovakian team or Czech Republic team in the World Cup. These were guys, and that's what I kind of was thinking about earlier today, like because I was listening to the Christian pod. Go check that out. It was awesome. Good job, Josh and Christian. Love having you on. But I was just feeling your Thaddeus Young hate again as you guys were talking about Thaddeus Young for a little bit. And I was like, man, like Josh is such a hater. And then I was thinking like, why are we getting mad at Thaddeus Young and Sadaransky? Like, I hope the people around him aren't getting mad at him. You know what I would do if I'm the coach or if I'm someone close to Thaddeus Young or Sadaransky? I bring back the free agent pitch. I bring back the free agent pitch and go, because what they were pitching was, okay, we're gonna make the playoffs. We got this young roster. You're gonna come in. You're gonna be the leader. You're gonna do all the right things. Like, and then bring whatever videotape, film tape that you prepared to show him how he's gonna fit in, because they like that has to exist somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Re-show him what he was doing, and then get like. I feel like I would do that with everyone. I would just restart the season in my mind a little bit and go from zero. Like, we talk about how Isaac is injured and Orlando might fall out, or Brooklyn isn't playing well, or whatever. It's just like us even focusing or thinking about that is a losing mentality. You can't be thinking about your opponents. You got to be thinking about what you can do to get better. And this team, I think, has the talent still, and clearly in the stretches where they're competitive against really good teams, they look like that. Their defense sometimes, I really liked Christian's point about it being kind of gimmicky, and teams kind of figure the defense out in the second half, especially with Chris Paul. That was a really interesting insight there. But it's still hard to play against this Bulls team. The defense isn't fifth for no reason. Like, sometimes the steals might be fake, not fake, but like not as meaningful, and you can see that kind of resolve in other numbers. But the Bulls' defensive numbers are generally like pretty good all around. So I don't think that's a fluke. It's just the offense is always stagnating, and the opposing defense or the opposing offense adjusts to the defense a little bit better in the second half, which causes this kind of interest. Anyway, I went off for a tangent again. But did we stop, or did we close out the Thaddeus Young Sadaransky? I was talking about how they should go back to the preseason mindset.
I think that would be a good pitch for the Jim Boylen and the coaching staff to make to the players. This is a good opportunity now for them to reset the season, as you said. They're 13-23 right now. Orlando are three wins in front of them for the eighth seed. So I don't think the Bulls.
Three wins
I
or
think
three
it's
games?
3 wins.
Okay.
Probably games would be like 5 games behind or something by now. But this playoff hunt for the Bulls, it's not going to end, and I'm sure we're going to be at game 75, and the Bulls will be a few games out. And this is a good time now. These last 3 games, you've been extremely competitive with some really good teams: the Jazz, the Celtics, the Bucks. Sure, the Bucks game ended up being a blowout, but the first 2.5 quarters are really good for the Bulls, and they have shown some improvements on both ends in terms of playing together and competing with these really good teams. Like, the Celtics are 25-8. Like, that's a very good team. The Bucks obviously first, and then the Jazz are fourth or fifth in the West. So it's not like you're playing these sub 500 teams. And the Bulls have been very competitive. And I think now this is the time you reset the season for them and let them get back to, okay, this is what we want you to do. This is what we want you to do. Zach, we want you to take these shots. Don't take these shots. And just get everybody on the right path. I think maybe a few team meetings could be ideal, because I'm sure the players want to voice different opinions on where to stand with this team and where to go forward with it. And I think for the Bulls, it's just about making sure everyone's on the right page, and because they're starting to play better, but they had to recognize, okay, what are we doing to not win these games? We're playing well, but we're not being able to close it out. And 3 games in a row, it's been the third quarter for the Bulls. They lost tonight, third quarter, 30-21. The Celtics won that third quarter. So really, the Bulls have just been coming out of the second half break. I don't know what Jim Boylen's telling them, and they have come out very flat in the third quarters. And I think that might be a big turning point for them if they can start to win these third quarters, or at least making them pretty even.
So two things, or one thing that I noticed in 2 games against the Bucks and against the Celtics tonight, it seems like the teams, so the Bucks and Celtics, just kind of turned it up a notch effort-wise, and then the Bulls just kind of fell flat. So what I mean by that is today, the like Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Gordon Hayward, like the defense seemed smothering more so in that third quarter, and against the Bucks too, it just seemed like they started trying harder for the Bucks, and the Celtics. It just seemed like they were just smothering on defense, using their length, going at everything, switching everything. I was talking about it in the halftime show, how the Celtics roster lends itself to a lot of switching just because of the interchangeability of 2 through 4, which also kind of lets the opposing team switch against those three players as well, because if you can guard one, you could pretty much guard all three. So that's one thing that's interesting about the Celtics, but their personnel is really good on that defensive end with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. They're also really long, so when you're switching and also aggressively jumping up on the switch, so it's like a new guy with renewed energy just hopping on ball. That really disturbed the Bulls in that third quarter. I thought Jason and Jalen had a lot of kind of mini deflections or like discomforting plays for the ball handler, and Satoransky, Chris Dunn, or whatever just couldn't really do stuff. And the second half offense, it just seemed like if there wasn't some sort of individual effort or turnover, like Chris Dunn had that one like in and out nice hezzy like dribble and bucket. Lowry got to the rim a couple times, could dunk on like offensive boards and scrambles, but there didn't seem to be a lot of organized quality offense, and that's kind of the same thing we've been talking about. But what do you think about like just the opposing team seemingly trying a bit harder and then the Bulls just shutting down?
I think the Bulls let a couple of buckets get to their heads when the Celtics went on like an 8-0 run. The Bulls let that get to their head, and it's pretty evident in the third quarter when the Celtics went on a really big run. Same as that first quarter too. You said what was it, 18-7 when Wendell came out, something big like that. So for the Bulls, I think 21-13 run. So I think these Bulls let the opposition, when they start scoring, I think they let them get to their heads, and when Thad obviously isn't on the court or who your leader is with the experiences, and tell them, okay, let's reset it. I know I heard Satoransky say that in the third quarter, let's reset it, let's run this play out of the timeout. So I think the Bulls might need to stop letting opposition runs get to them. Obviously, when they're playing defense, and also offensively too. They're fairly predictable, and especially down the stretch too. You know, Zach LaVine's going to get the ball. Nobody else is able to obviously create their own shot, and so Zach's going to have the ball in his hands. And when Zach doesn't make the shot, I think again, the team lets that get to them. And especially when Tatum came down and hit that big three for the Celtics, that was kind of a turning point in the game when the Bulls had a lot of momentum. I think they brought it to win. Brought it to 3-2 with a few minutes left. So when Tatum hit that three, the game was almost a bit over because the Bulls just couldn't come back from that triple. So I think it's just letting the opposition scoring runs get to them, and then when they're not getting a bucket on the other end, it's just kind of putting them in a bad spot. I don't know where you sit on that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm right. I'm not too sure about that.
What was the thing you just said about sitting? Andrew Jones was hitting us with the chat in the YouTube, so I kind of missed that last part.
Oh, just saying how the Bulls just let, scoring runs, or when they go on a non-scoring stretch, just get to their head sort of thing, and it kind of puts them in a bad spot for the remainder of.
It seemed that for me where I stand on that is LaVine trying to play hero and say, "Oh, I'll take us out of this situation." I don't want to put it all on LaVine. I feel like I'm kind of attacking him a little bit too hard here, but when things aren't going well, it's easier to either blame someone or put your head down and not execute on the correct thing. And then young teams get affected by this more so than veteran teams. The Celtics are playing more like a veteran team, even though they are pretty young overall. They do have Kemba and Hayward, which veteran and also stars. So that's different in terms of the Celtics and the Bulls. But yeah, it's the sign of a young team as well as the sign of a not undisciplined team on the offensive end when they just kind of, I don't know, Wendell, if you counted, I wish I had access to number of screens per quarter, because I guarantee you he had so much less screens in the second half.
Do you think too, Zach, just quickly?
Yeah, go
just
ahead.
quickly with Zach, when it comes to that fourth quarter, especially with Lowry out too, the Bulls are running a lineup of it was Chris Dunn, Satoransky, Thad Young, Wendell, and LaVine. And you look at that, and I'm just trying to think, like, LaVine kind of has to play the hero ball role, because seriously, like, who else is going to score? Wendell obviously can't do that. Larry can, but he was on the floor, and even then, and when Larry is on the floor, he normally tends to sit in the corner and let LaVine go to work. So it's really like, it's hard to find other options to score, which is my concern with Zach because nobody else can do it aside from him, which really sucks for the Bulls because the defense for the Celtics is a very good defensive team. They're so focused on Levine, and when no one else can create their own shot, it's just really difficult for the Bulls to close these games out.
So I want to caveat that with no one else can do it on their own. So we have a lot of we have a decent amount of players that can play offense if put into the right situation. The only thing is the one guy that we have that can really create off the dribble and attack and beat their man is the one guy that can't really make everyone else better, which is Levine. So I think even Satoransky, like he can run a pick and roll very nicely, but he's a lot better in team motion and running actual plays, right? And when there's chemistry and stuff, Satoransky's just when he's more involved, he's obviously better, much like everyone else. But Levine doesn't really play that team ball, and there's no other creators. So when your only creator is also a guy whose strength is isolation scoring, it makes it really hard for everyone else to stay in line and play to their strength. Like Lauri Markkanen, we talk a lot about Lauri Markkanen and how he should be good and a number one option. Anthony Davis is the number one option, but Anthony Davis is not like bring the ball up every single time. And like
Yep.
not that Lowry's Anthony Davis. I'm just talking about the extreme example of like a big who can shoot face up and kind of has a full offensive package that you want to
But
be
80
your.
does have LeBron James though.
Well, yeah, of
That's like,
course, but
yeah,
it's a combination. Like we're not really seeing any
sure.
like Lowry alone stuff, and then when Lowry does get some passes and the Levine pick and pop is flowing and working, it looks good. But that dies out in the second half generally when Levine tries to take over and whatever. I did want to shout out Andrew Jones listening live on YouTube podcast listeners. Catch us on YouTube live if you want. Dunn only took six shots. He was 4 of 6. So why do people say Dunn can't do it when he doesn't get an opportunity to? Dunn today was and we didn't really talk about Dunn, so that's a good transition. He played 40 minutes first of all. Second of all, like 6 shots is good for Dunn. Like I don't want Dunn taking a lot more shots than that. 13 points, 7 assists, 4 boards, 3 steals. He was probably the second best Bull. I mean, Wendell played really like. It sucks because the team played pretty well. We only went 3 deep on our bench today, which was also interesting. Only Kobe White, Thaddeus Young, and Gafford played, and Gafford got destroyed by Canner, so his minutes were 0 points, 0 for 2 for Gafford. He had some hustle plays, 3 blocks, which was positive. But let's get back to Dunn. I mean, I feel like this is the exact type of game you want Dunn to have. Like he got into the lane a couple times. He made some plays. He made a lot of defensive plays, and you don't want him to do much more because when he does, I feel like it limits the offense and it's not positive, right?
Yep, this is a good game for Chris. 13 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 steals, 4 for 6 from a field, which you like to see. He even got to the free throw line 5 times too, which last season I don't even think we saw that at all. I remember last season that I think Chris Dunn went 18 games or 16 games without getting the free throw line. So that's big for Chris. And he played 40 minutes tonight and he played consistent defense. He was a big part of the Bulls team that went on that run when they were down 16 at one point to bring it back in within 3 or 4. So this is a good role for Chris. You're right. The shot selection and the shots he was taking and the amount of shots he was taking was good. 6, 7, 8, maybe not over 8, maybe not under 5 is pretty good for Chris. I think he did have a good game, but then again, he does hurt a little bit with spacing, especially in that third quarter. When he's the lead guard, when he's put in that lead guard role, when he's running the half court set, teams seem to obviously sag off of him, and that kind of ruins our spacing a little bit. Which when you have Otto Porter on there, it helps so much. But we're without Otto for another month, so I'm probably just going to leave him out of this. But yeah, you're right. Chris had a good game. I was really happy with his performance.
Well, I think that should do it for this game. I mean, the Celtics. I just want to real quick shout out. Tatum was just absurd in the fourth
Oh
quarter,
yeah,
like just keeping them at distance, play after play. That dagger when they were up 4 with a minute and 10 left, just long range standstill fadeaway. That was an insane shot, and he just had time after time floaters, layups, one on one getting past Dunn. He did struggle against Dunn on some possessions, but man, he won overall. Hayward, 24 points, 9 of 14. Tatum, like I said, 28 points, 12 of 15. Jalen Brown,
Wow.
Jalen Brown, 7 of 13, 19 points, 7 boards, 3 assists. Like, it's so efficient for all those wings. Kemba wasn't playing today. Marcus Smart started instead. 8 points, 5 assists for Marcus Smart. And I mean, this Celtics team, like I said, they're not a real contender in my eyes this year because of the age and inexperience of Tatum and Brown, and also the lack of someone to guard Embiid or Giannis. But I think the Tatum and Brown duo is a future Paul George Kawhi type duo. Like, I'm not saying that they're going to reach that space, but I think they're one of the few wing tandems that have the potential to do that. And games like this just show like how they can play. And this is like, I don't think it's valid to say, oh, but it's against the Bulls, because people like to razz and like shit on the Bulls. But like doing this against this Bulls defense, who actually is like the pain to play against a lot of nights, was impressive. Canner, 17 points, 12 boards, just destroyed Gafford, like I said. But anyway, man, any last words? Anything that you wanted to say?
Yeah, Kanter had a huge game. I'll tell you what, I was looking forward to the Brown Levine matchup, considering both of these two are going to be potential first time All Stars in the East, and it's fair to say individually Levine won that matchup, but then again Brown and his team played a much better game, and I think Tatum too. What do you sit on this Jason Tatum All Star team? I think maybe he's probably earned a spot.
I
I
think he
think with the
has.
team record and how he's playing, he's earned a spot. Yeah,
I
but
mean,
also another.
I think he's ahead of Zach.
Yeah, but keep in mind, Tatum's a forward and Zach's a guard, so they both get voted in differently. That's why
Yeah,
I
true.
mentioned Brown, because yeah, but I think Tatum and maybe Bam Adebayo could be first time All Stars. Do you think maybe Bam could get in?
100%. I mean, I had my all-star team set up. I forgot who actually was there, but it was, hold up, I have it actually up on my screen. So my East all-stars, Kemba, Ben Simmons, Giannis, Siakam, Embiid were my starting five. Leaving Jimmy Butler out hurt, but he wasn't a guard. Like, he was a guaranteed for that second guard spot if he could be voted as a guard, but he's not, so I had to put in Ben Simmons. And I just had to put in Siakam too. And then I have Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Sabonis. I think Sabonis is almost a lock. I think Bradley Beal's a lock. I have Tatum, and then I have Drummond. And then I just homered and put Levine, even though I think like Trey Young or Dinwiddie or Middleton have a case too. It's just like their cases aren't that much stronger, so I just put in Levine for fun. And yeah, so that's kind of my all star list, I guess, real quick.
Yeah, I think that's a good All Star team, and there are a lot of players who could be first time All Stars. And obviously fan voting plays a part, but then again, the coaches and the coaches and the media vote on it too, if I'm correct. So I'm looking forward to the All Star game, though, man. Either way, whether a Bull makes it or not, there's gonna be a few. Especially a dunk contest too. I really want to see Zach Levine do
Yeah.
that dunk contest.
All right, man. Well, everyone, thanks for listening. Thanks to Andrew Jones hopping on live, asking us questions on YouTube. Podcast listeners, hit us up. Hit Josh up. We have a nice Twitter chat going too. I wanted to shout a couple people out. The last three people to talk were extremely depressed Bulls fan, Oscar, Thad Young's uncoordinated layups. But yeah, it's fun. Jorge, Coach P is in there, so it's a fun time. Hit us up at Bullish Hoops, Insta, Twitter, everywhere. The website's gonna get going soon too, so be on the lookout for that. We'll talk to you next time. Peace.